a topic, and I have to say, this will be something that really does divide opinion. And I think a lot of you might be quite offended when you hear what it is that I'm referring to, because you'll be familiar with this case, perhaps. A man has today pleaded guilty to wearing what I would personally say is an absolutely disgusting shirt, and a very offensive shirt as well, about the Hillsborough tragic disaster. He wore this to the FA Cup final. You will have seen this in the news. You'll have been seeing this picture circulating around. The guy, absolute moron, if you ask me, of the highest order, caused a huge amount of offence about an issue that still, all these years later, understandably so, hurts and upsets a number of people, you know, right across the country. Families, of course, lost their loved ones, will never get them back. And then you've got absolute pillocks like this fella, James White. He was at court today grinning away like the moron that he is. He's been fined now £1,000. He was banned from attending football matches for 4 years, and he had to pay costs. I've got to say, nobody will disagree that this is an offensive shirt. Nobody will disagree that this is in bad taste, offensive to many people, and that he shouldn't have worn it. The guy was wrong. But should it be a crime?
Yes. And the only defence against that is free speech. But free speech carries with it a responsibility, and one of those responsibilities is not to indulge in hate speech. It is a crime to promote terrorism. Absolutely right. You don't want to radicalise people to become suicide bombers. So in this case, what this guy was doing, that he could have, apart from just upsetting people, he could have caused severe unrest. And on the basis of that, he should not be allowed to do it. You cannot just have unlimited free speech. Just cannot do that.
So you think absolutely court of law, criminal law applied to this fella is the right thing, criminal record for you for doing that?
Yes.
Dominique?
I think we have to just look at it sort of in simpler terms. He wore a shirt that some people found offensive. Well, most people would find offensive when you look at the context, but it's a shirt. He probably is an idiot, probably doesn't have a very tasteful sense of humour, but at the end of the day, he wore a shirt, and I don't think it should be a crime to do that. I think what we should be doing is allowing the club itself to decide who it doesn't and does want inside its establishment, which it has done. It's given him a lifetime ban, and that should be the end of it. I mean, really, the likelihood of him being fined, you know, for committing a criminal offence is probably low if that didn't go viral on social media, because it's just not something that people, well, the police prioritise, and I think it should be left up to the club. I think that you start with things like this, where does it end? It shouldn't be a crime to upset someone or say, or do something offensive, and I'm sorry, it doesn't matter what context that's in.
So there's no limits to that. So you can I don't know, wear a T-shirt about, you know, awful things like the Holocaust and stuff like that in your mind. Yeah. Do you think that would be all right?
Oh, it's not okay. I don't morally think that that's right, and it's not something that I would do. But I think what people forget about the point of freedom of speech is it's also to allow the public to be free to criticise that and to be free to express their views as well. I don't think that it should be in the hands of the court because someone wore a shirt that people didn't like.
I'm astonished that the guy didn't get filled in, to be honest. But, well, I am.
Which really is curious. It's curious, but at the end of the day, the club shouldn't have even let him in, I think. Or wherever he was, he shouldn't have been let in, and that's that.
Of course, I mean, I always get astonished with these things. At no point, from dreaming up your idea, going to the printers, seeing the design mocked up, buying it, receiving it, sticking it on your back, showing your friends, leaving. I am astonished that brain cells do not kick in and think to yourself, actually,
this is a bad idea.
Yeah, this is not my brightest idea. It is deeply offensive. But to Dominique's point, Nigel, who gets to decide the lines then? Who gets to decide what is offensive and what is not, and what should be criminalised?
Well, eventually it's Parliament, it's the legal system. And what Parliament has done is said, look, there are various hate crimes that and hate speech which should be banned. That's rubber-stamped by the United Nations. I mean, it is they guarantee freedom of expression, but these are exceptions.
Well, it's not freedom of expression if there's certain things
Well,
that
freedom
you
of
can't
expression
do.
shouldn't be unlimited.
You can't wear a shirt. And also,
it can't be unlimited. We can't allow, and we do all censor ourselves all the time. We
but in
wouldn't
that case,
swear on this programme.
In that case, is the place that he got it from, are they committing a crime as well? Should they be banned from producing a shirt like that?
Well, they should be banned from producing a shirt like that.
Right, so...
I mean, I don't know where he got it and the actual details behind that.
Well, there's quite a lot of them online, actually. I was looking, and there's quite a lot of outlets where you can buy those tops from.
Well, in which case, then, if the police visited them, they would be in the same boat as this guy.
Well, do you see how dark that is? You can't make this shirt because we don't like it. And look, I don't agree with what he did, but I just think it's a slippery slope. Very slippery slope. I think
is there not a line somewhere where you go too far? So, for instance, if you got a group of young people around and you started talking to them about wearing suicide vests, that is freedom of speech. Is that acceptable?
That's not acceptable because you're directly inciting people to...
So there's a line somewhere. There's a line
violence.
somewhere where speech is not totally free.
There's a line that's been long established, though, and that's with intention to do harm, violence against other people. All he did was wear a shirt that said not enough. I mean, you could interpret that in so many ways. The only way that you would interpret it as being about Hillsborough is if you knew what Hillsborough was. If you wore that in Barcelona somewhere...
That was Hillsborough.
I know, but yeah, I'm not saying it wasn't, but if you didn't know anything about football and didn't know anything about Hillsborough, you would just think it was a shirt saying not enough.
Oh, I mean, you don't have to have sport as your specialist subject on Mastermind to know that was. I
didn't know that was about Hillsborough.
Well, I'll throw it open to you guys at home. You've heard both sides of the argument there. Where do you stand on it? Of course, everyone would agree that was grossly offensive. I mean, you're lacking brain cells, if you ask me, if you think that is a good idea. But should it be a crime? I'll throw it open to you to have the final word on that one. GBviews at gbnews.com.